Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's session here at Simply Funded. My name is Cheree, and hopefully, I'm your favorite lender. I work with a lot of different families and homeowners, but most importantly, I work with a lot of investors and self employed people to help you build your real estate investment portfolios. And today is no different because I have a super successful real estate agent and investor from the great state of Texas. So, Devin Martinez is in the building. Hello, Devin.
Hey, how's it going?
It is going well. Thank you so much for being here. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and where you're from and how you got involved in real estate.
So I've been in Houston, Texas for about 5 years now. I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas, born and raised there. Um, I'm 28 years old, and I got into real estate a little over 3 years ago, going on 4 years now, and started off as a wholesaler, then became an agent, then got into more flipping, and now slowly picking up a portfolio of my own.
That is great. So, what were you doing before you got into real estate?
I was in sales, heavy sales. I've always been in a cold call centric world. I
Hmm.
started my first cold call. My first cold calling job was when I was 19 years old, and it was working for an extended warranty company. Have you ever gotten those calls where it's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, have you ever gotten a extended warranty for your vehicle, etc."
Hmm.
That was my first cold calling job.
Was that brutal?
It was definitely very competitive.
Hmm.
I did okay at first, but then after a while, becomes very redundant, and you get very tired of it. And yeah, it didn't last that long.
Mm. So, did you then end up going right into real estate? Was there something in between?
There was a lot of in between. I've been in insurance sales. I've been in solar panel sales. I did some marketing for AT&T, which was like it was almost a customer service more than anything, but they had some sales involved in it. It was
Mhm,
mainly just answering for new sales over the phone for
mhm,
AT&T. Did that
mhm.
for all the way up until about 24 years old, 25, and yeah. So I mean,
So
so
3
when I
years
first,
ago, you stopped
about just a
that.
little over 3 years ago.
Okay. And then what caused you to wanna get into real estate?
So I was working that marketing job, and
Mhm,
what ended up happening is my at the time boss, he owned some property, and I remember going over to a couple of appointments where he was picking up another property. He was a
mhm,
landlord,
mhm,
and he had told me, I wanted to know just how do you, how can I get started in this. And at the time I wasn't really making too much, doing what I was doing with him. And he told me about wholesaling,
mhm,
wholesale real estate, right? So the handling of a contract, basically selling a contract, being the middleman between an investor and a seller.
mhm,
So gave me a little snippet about it. He sent me some YouTube videos, and from there it was kind of like I immediately just kind of wanted to get into work, and
mhm,
that was like at the end of 2019. That he told me about it. I didn't really take action till around 2020, and I got my first deal, and then ever since then I was actually hooked, but I was still working that full-time job with him. Thing that
okay.
happened though is COVID ended up happening. We went into the
Mhm,
pandemic, and
mhm,
he moved the business over to South Carolina, and I didn't want to move over there to South Carolina to make it happen. So I ended up just saying I'm going to go full time into wholesale real estate and do this, and that's what kind of drove me into it full time. But at that time, I had only had one deal under my belt.
okay. One of the things that we often talk about here is the fact that people, will oftentimes have their full-time job, whatever it is that's bringing in the money, paying the bills, and then starting a part-time business. And it's often best to start that part-time business and concentrate on growing it while you have your full-time job. How difficult or different would it have been if you had not had that, even one, I mean, one is a great success, had that, successful wholesaling, before you had actually left that job?
I So it didn't. So I got my first deal while I was working that job, and it
Right.
was a good check. But at that time, I wasn't really that good with money. So
Ah,
it was the first check I ever made was around it was around like 17K or
mhm.
13K, something like that.
That's a lot
It
of
was a it
money.
was a it was a solid check.
Yeah.
First time of myself ever seeing that kind of money, where I got a check for five figures, And at the time, I was not that great with money, and I didn't really, it was basically steak dinners every night, fancy breakfasts every morning, huge
You
shopping
how
spree, and
many
that.
girlfriends did you have?
Oh, I was actually with my who's now my fiance.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, and we just had our first child, so
Um,
we spoiled ourselves heavily, and that money was
mhm.
gone within, I want to say, like a month, maybe two. And
Yeah.
I realized how bad I was with money. And then the crazy thing is when COVID happened, I kind of got lazy.
Mhm.
So I was just like, oh, I got a full-time job, I'm making a decent check. But then when COVID happened and it just the world basically halted,
Mhm.
um, that got kind of scary,
Yeah.
because then when he moved it, I was down to my last check. I was determining
Mhm.
trying to get on unemployment, and I said I was going to do real estate, but it took me a while to get into action, which was very tough. And I will say, me and my fiance, we struggled for a little bit, and it was kind of it was really hard. I'm not gonna
Mhm.
lie. That first month of COVID felt like forever, because
Yeah.
it was just me being broke and really like worried about paying rent, and
Mhm.
it was very tough.
Everybody felt that during that time, and it was also a great shift for so many people, which, of course, including yourself as well. So, tell us about, the journey with regards to becoming a successful wholesaler and then getting into flipping. Like, how did it work? I know one thing I always tell people is that wholesaling is a marketing business. Even fixing and flipping is like marketing. Like, you've got to be very good at the lead generation and getting the phone to ring, basically, or getting those deals in. But what have you discovered with regards to that?
So with wholesaling, I had the outline of how to do it.
Mhm.
Um, I just wasn't putting the action in, because at the time, I don't know why, I was just very lazy. I don't know, I just didn't
Mhm.
have the motivation to really do it. But
Mhm.
throughout that month of struggling, I remember the conversation was, my fiance, at that time, she had actually I slacked off as a father, I slacked off as a partner, and at the time we didn't have any money either. So she actually moved with her mom for a short period of time, which was a huge wake up call. And I think that was a huge part of what kind of drove me to kind of motivated me to kind of get my shit together. Excuse my language.
Mhm.
Um, so I know what to do. I know how to handle the phones. I know how to make calls. And I basically just bought a list with the last bit of I remember. Oh, stimulus money. That's what it was. I was like,
Ah.
where did I remember buying a list and getting a new laptop and stuff, and I was trying to remember
Mhm.
where I got the money from. It was the stimulus check that they gave
It's
us,
to me.
and I remember I used that whole stimulus check to buy a new MacBook. I bought a new MacBook, and I bought a list of leads from some website. I think I got PropStream or someone
Mhm.
one of those REI, yeah, CRMs, and I just started hammering the phones. And next thing you know, I'm posting on Facebook, getting a buyer's list, and then funny enough, I ended up getting a couple deals, small wholesale fees, assignment fees,
Mhm.
but I was actually starting to pick up some traction. And 2020, I made a total of, I think I made 78 grand that year,
Which
and
is
in
not
wholesale
bad.
fees, which was amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
I did great, and in that time, I actually joined a couple of wholesale groups, and then I
Mhm.
got to meet my broker, who's sitting right next to me right now, in one of those groups. And through meeting him, he was a successful flipper broker. Basically ran the whole south of Houston, and him and his team. So I got to get to know him, and basically from there, I got to learn how to take care of my money a lot better. And what got me as to become an agent was basically I would call this guy about maybe every month just to kind of coach with him and tell him how my business was going. And at the time, I think it was 2021. It was around July or August of 2021. Um, was whenever I was calling him, and I was dealing with my first flip property. I tried to use all my capital to go into a flip property that was going south. I was going to lose a lot of money, and he hooked me up with who is now one of my hard money lenders that I use out here in Houston. And I remember I was scared to death because I was already looking at this deal, and I was buying a bum deal. It was too late to back out, and it was kind of a rough thing. So anyways, he coached me through it, and what ended up happening was I got out of a sticky situation. My hard money lender ended up buying the deal off me. I basically just walked away with nothing. You know, I lost maybe like $3,000, but the hard money lender bought it. He ended up making something out of it. I know he turned it into a rental, and then he ended up selling it to one of those institutional buyers. And I hope he made it. We haven't really talked about it too much, but
You're scared to ask.
I try to step over that subject when it comes up, but I like to hope he made something out of it because he's just super smart with money.
Yeah.
You know, and so throughout that conversation, I remember maybe it was like 2 weeks later, my broker ended up Ozzy, ended up calling me, and he was just like, "Hey, why don't you get your license?" And I have a position within our team. We're growing and we're doing something big, and I really see an opportunity for you to join my team and make something happen. And because he knew I was a dialer, he knew this is kind of what the world I come from, and this is kind of what I do. So I got my license in 2 weeks. I ended up getting my license within like under 3 weeks. I did the courses, did the whole 180 hours, took the course, took the tests, and then next thing you know, I'm licensed. And now I'm kind of involved with someone I would like to call my mentor and getting in business with him more on that side, which ended up the growth from there is exponential.
Yeah. So I want to go back to your wholesaling days and just ask you a couple of additional questions. So you knew, with the stimulus money, first of all, congratulations on taking the stimulus money and actually making something of it, because a lot of people didn't. But you knew what you had to do, right? You had to, you bought the MacBook, you bought the list. How many hours a day did you work? How many phone calls did you make per day, or hours did you work? Like, just giving some people just a little bit more details with regards to what your day was like, so that way you made 78,000 your first year in business.
So I will say that I called about 4 to 5 hours a day. It felt like
Okay.
I think it was about I would start around noon, and I wouldn't be done till around between 3 to 5.
Okay.
And I'd make somewhere along the lines of around like 150 to 250 calls a day.
Were
I
you
think.
using a dialer?
No, I did not have a dialer. I actually used my
Oh,
actual cell phone, which was rough.
okay, because that is rough, and that's a lot of calls to make from your cell phone without a dialer.
Oh yeah, no, I did. So I didn't even. I remember looking at a dialer, but it was too
Mhm.
expensive for me.
It was like it's like $100 a month. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was too much of an investment for me at that time.
Hmm.
And I remember seeing a Mojo dialer, which was a CRM in itself, but I had
Hmm.
already committed to paying this other one that I was on, so it was
Hmm.
like, it was kind of I was between a rock and a hard place on those
Hmm.
ones.
Yeah.
But
Okay. So you dialed for 4 to 5 hours a day, which is not bad. And then the rest of the time you spent like going to meet with property owners, and it sounds like maybe you went to some RIAs as well. RIA, for everybody, is Real Estate Investment Association. Um, just want to explain the acronym. Is that what you did in order to meet
so
people?
I went out to a lot of networking groups. I was a part of a lot of wholesale groups as well. And
Hmm.
I also partnered up with a lot of people to JV with them. So we would always
Hmm.
go driving for dollars. We'd go make calls together. We'd go on appointments together. I try to, towards the end of that, towards like the middle of in between that, in the middle of all that wholesaling, I was also trying to save money to flip because that was
Mhm.
what I wanted to do as well. And
Mhm.
so I would try to go out, meet contractors, meet hard money lenders, and try to just really dig into the world. And looking back, hindsight wise, I think there was a lot of things I could have done better in networking, because for me, I wasn't too I'm really good over the phones. I can talk to you
Mhm.
over the phone, and I'm very outgoing in that sense. But I found myself being a recluse in networking events. I was very scared of them, so I wouldn't really
Mhm.
talk to too many people. And I feel like Devin today is a whole different guy. But now I'm talking to everybody. But I wish I would have talked to a little bit more people.
Yeah.
But that was a lot of what my day considered, and then also taking care. I feel like I got to spend more time at home with my partner and my son, and that was actually really nice. And knowing things were coming down the pipeline. But
Mhm.
yeah, my day was filled with, and then I remember even getting my fiance to make calls for me. She would talk to sellers. She was almost like my transaction coordinator. She would kind of
Okay.
talk to, after I got something under contract, she would talk to them. She absolutely wants nothing to do with real estate because of me. Because of that time, I feel like sellers stressed her out and buyers also stressed her out. So she wants nothing to do with real estate now.
Mm. Wow, that's interesting because either I guess people love it or they hate it. So, okay, so then you successfully moved to fixing and flipping. Tell us about your first flip.
So my first flip, I'm going to talk about the one that I almost lost money on. That was
Okay.
one that was so it wasn't one that I actually ended up buying, but it was one that my lender ended up buying off me. But I think it's super important to, and this is something I preach today, is about knowing your numbers and
Mm,
really being able to calculate your numbers, and how, and real estate agent can be super
helpful.
really super helpful, very paramount to
Mhm.
the whole process, because at the
Mhm.
time I thought I was good at running my numbers, and me
Mhm.
running my numbers on this particular one, it was a pre-foreclosure property, and this person was going under in foreclosure, and I went off of the seller's word on what they owed, and not really
Yeah.
and biggest mistake I could have done was not put it in the title early enough, because I put an
Mhm.
expectation on the date, and they
Mhm.
told me they owed I think they told me they owed like 80,000, and the ARV was like 250, and they really just wanted like 10,000 to move on. So I was like,
Mhm.
90,000, 250 ARV. I'm walking in this place, it looks great, and I'm like, holy crap, I just came into a deal, which was why it made me want to flip it. um Biggest thing is that I ended up I jumped the gun, got it under contract. I I did not put it into title, and I
Mhm.
regret not putting it into title, because I wanted to make sure before I jumped in deep in this, um, I was going to be okay to do it. So I got in with the hard money lender, and I remember at the time he had told me to put it into title, and I didn't, and I basically didn't put it into title for like a month, and that month could
Mm.
have been very pivotal. But anyways, I started going through the motions with hard money. By the time I put it in the title, they took forever to get payoff, and that was the thing that I think could have been avoided if I just put it in the title, immediately. And
Right.
a thing that happened was payoff ended up coming back, and it came back as they ended up owing double what they told me, and
Mhm.
um, and
So
it
it
was a
messed the
huge.
numbers.
I totally did not account for that. And it ended up, and I had already went under contract. I had already been through the
Mhm.
motions with my lender. We were already a week of closing, and everything came to and it was all because I did not run my numbers correctly. I did not look into it. I did not do enough research. And then on top of that, I thought it was going to be an ARV of around 250. The appraisal came back 30,000 under, and
Mhm.
I was terrified. I was super terrified, and I was like, "Wow, I'm about to lose my head over this. This shouldn't have. I shouldn't have bought this. I shouldn't
Yeah.
have gotten it." And I think it was a huge learning experience for me, because um, again, my broker Ozzy, he was the one that got me with this lender, and this lender was also coaching me through this whole thing, and so was he. And I just had a lot of people, coaching me through, and I think they kind of wanted me to fail in that, in order for me
Hmm.
to kind of a kick in the head, and so that I could understand a lot better. And I feel like through experience, I learned a lot in that first deal. Even though I
Right.
didn't end up buying it, it was a huge learning experience on how paramount it is to know your numbers. And
Yeah.
since I've
Well,
became
I
an
do want to
agent,
say that usually your hard money lender, your lender period, but especially your hard money lender can help you with numbers as well. So the issue was the payoff, which was not your lender's fault. So when they
right,
told you to initially get your title, like on our end, so we're hard money lenders as well. And what we do is we have an attorney and we will say, okay, who's your title company? We'll see that in the ratified contract. And then we immediately our attorney immediately requests title be ordered, so that way we don't end up with those surprises. So we don't, as a hard money lender, we don't have you as a borrower do it. In fact, we call ourselves Simply Funded because we want to make the process as simple for the borrower as possible. But your lenders are great people to actually run numbers with as well. Sometimes they're better than the realtors because they're going to be lending the money and they kind of account for all of the closing costs and things like that.
right. And you just reminded me of that too. So he did mention to me that he didn't know about the numbers. He was like, you're kind of yeah. I don't know if your numbers make complete sense on this. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, no, it'll appraise, it'll be fine. And I remember assuring, and that's where I think he was like, you're gonna learn. You're gonna see yourself. And I paid for an appraisal, and I went through the motions. But since to this day, right, I've had conversations about this particular one with him,
Mm-hmm.
and he had been giving me signs of it, but I was
Mm-hmm.
like assuring, and I had cash to push it through, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But towards the end, I realized, oh my God, this is gonna break me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I am gonna mess up really bad. And then towards the end, like I ended up telling you from the beginning, he ended up buying the deal. He's
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm gonna close on this, and we're gonna get you out from this. And I've used them on plenty of other deals since then, and it's been but that's been after I became an agent, because that thing put me in paralysis for flipping that
Yeah.
one deal. And I didn't really do another flip till after I became right before I became an agent.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So, and are you doing now? I think you're doing ground up construction as well, right? Are you doing any ground up
No, not
construction?
ground up
Okay.
construction. Not that.
All
Not
right.
that. I'm not. That's not really my forte at the moment.
Okay. All right. So you're just doing the flipping now. Are you still doing any wholesaling? Are you
Yeah.
flipping everything or go
Yeah,
ahead.
so a little bit. So within our brokerage, we actually just opened up a whole new wholesale division
Mhm.
that's run up by two of the biggest wholesalers in Houston right now. So a lot of deals that I end up, and I still hammer the phones to this day, even
Mhm.
though I've been in the game for a little bit, still hammering the phones to this day, and that's kind of what we end up teaching to anybody that's getting into it, whether you're wholesaling or just getting into real estate in general, is hammering the phones. And yeah, so we still wholesale. I still find deals. We run them through our chain, and that's kind of how. Yeah, we still do it.
Great, great. And so many states these days are requiring wholesalers to have real estate licenses. So I just want to suggest to anybody who is listening to this, even if your state doesn't require it now, you may want to consider getting your license if you're going to be a wholesaler. Just because things are changing rapidly. Just Virginia has just decided that you've got to have a license in order to wholesale. So a lot of states are requiring that now. Um, Give people three pieces of advice with regards to uh, being a real estate professional, especially on the investment side. What three pieces of advice would you give to people?
Okay. So the first one's going to be, I agree with what that statement you said before. If you're wholesaling anything to do with real estate, I believe you should get your license.
Hmm.
I believe knowing all ends of the business is how you become a master of it.
Hmm.
And getting to know the agency side, getting your license, and getting to know every aspect of real estate is paramount to your success. So number one, get your license. It's a small investment, and every year that you pay your dues and you have access to MLS, so it's nothing but pluses. I see. Number two, know your numbers. Learn your numbers, learn your market. That's a huge part wherever you're at. I mainly do Houston, Galveston, San Antonio. I know those markets very, very well, and I
Mhm.
get to know people that are being successful in those markets. So that's, again, get to know your market, get to know the people that are rock stars in your market, and get close to them, and collaborate, and get ideas so that everyone grows together. And then number three, and I think that kind of segues into the next one. Get a group of like-minded individuals, mentors, and surround yourself with them. Find any way you can get in with them, get under their wing. I will say this: if I didn't get in with my broker, my mentor Ozzy, I don't know where my success would be, because I would have probably just been on a treadmill
Mhm.
for the rest of it. And I think with him pushing me to get my license, and him getting me with people that are actually doing big things in the Houston market, I swear I would have never met most of the people I know today if it wasn't for getting involved like that, and
Yeah.
getting pushed. So find a mentor, find a coach that relates with you, and that you don't, I wouldn't even say have to pay for it, because
Mhm.
I haven't had to pay a dime to the coaches and the mentors that I've had in this business. These are just people that are rocking out, that I just asked a couple of questions to, and that I've learned from, and that I see. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and ask for some help. You know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you for wearing green today, because your green perfectly matches the Simply Funded logo. So,
Hey,
yes. And how can people get in touch with you if they want to connect with you and know more?
so you can connect to me directly. My number is 830-321-3345. Now, that is a direct line to me. It's not like my actual personal number, but it is a direct line to me. I will answer that phone night and day. And if you want, in this stream, I'll give you my email, Cheree, and
Sure.
someone can
Go ahead.
email me. It's devin@askozzy.com. It'll be wherever she puts it on the video.
Mhm.
And it's devon@askozzie.com. And yeah, feel free. I'm always, if you're in the Houston market, let's collaborate. Let's do some stuff together. And yeah, thank you, Simply Funded, and Cheree, for having me on.
Thank you so much. And to everybody else, you all know that if you are a real estate investor, you're looking for funding nationwide, definitely reach out to us at simplifunded.com. And we will be sure to connect you with the right funding for your circumstance. So, with that, Devin, thank you so much. Everybody, don't forget to like the video, click the heart button, all of those things. Follow us depending on the social stream that you are on. Thank you so much. And we will see you all for the next interview. Take care. Bye bye.